How is it going, boys and girls? Welcome back to Key West Waterman. How is it going, boys and girls? Welcome back to Key West Waterman. My name is Aaron Young. If you did not watch the last episode or you are new to the channel, I'm not in Key West. I don't know if you can tell. Last week I was down in St. Pete Beach, did some spearing down there, and this week I am up visiting my good friend Jeromy, the face behind Spearing Magazine. We've been friends for quite some time, and I've been making excuses on why not to come up here, but I'm taking the month of October off. Like I said in the last video, boat's getting some stuff redone to it, and quite honestly, I'm traveling around Florida just enjoying myself. We're heading out today. This is another gentleman you have not met. This is Zach Short. We're heading out. Jeremy's got some shallow spots he wants to take us to. I'm here for 2 days, so this episode may be 2 episodes, it may be one long one, but we're gonna hit some shallow spots. We're looking for mainly gags and mangroves and whatever else may swim by. Let's rock and roll. It's a little skinny. That's what we call low tide.
Uh, 4.8 feet.
4.8 feet. So when Jeromy said shallow, I thought shallow, but
This is deep.
the vegetation's coming almost to the surface. Good Lord, look at all the bait. That's good.
Oh yeah, they're here.
Tons of little, I can't tell if they're pilchies or threadfin.
They're pilchards.
That is a good sign. 4.8 feet, this guy. I'm gonna have to do some lung stretches. All right.
Let's go.
Woo! It's like 30 degrees. Welcome back underwater, boys and girls. Be sure to hit the like button if you have not already. It helps a ton. I know it's annoying, but I have to say it. These were some really shallow spots. I mean, I do some shallow stuff in Key West, but this was extremely shallow, and I think the hardest part of this was trying to shoot fish from the surface, which if you've ever tried it, the waves move you around, and it's not ideal. You can see right here, we surprised each other. I was not expecting to see that big of a gag grouper in this shallow. And it's so shallow that you can't really duck dive to get a level shot on them, and I kind of lined up and I just wasn't convinced on it. That was a very nice fish I should have taken, but saw plenty of shooter fish in the shallows here. I was just being selective, to be honest with you. That was my fault. I pissed that, without a doubt. Saw some shootable fish. Could have
There's one in there.
shot some sheeps, and
There's one in the fish.
I saw a meaty. What'd you shoot?
flounder.
Oh, did you really? No way. Jeromy found a flounder.
Which is, I'm gonna be honest.
Old blind gamble.
I put my hand on him.
On the bottom?
I laid on the bottom, and when I went to go look under the ledge, I spooked him, and he swam out like 4 feet, and I shot him. Otherwise, I never would have seen him.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, so long story short, I pissed it. On to the next. So we spent the morning in the shallows, then we pushed out a little deeper to see if the water got any better, and it got a lot worse, actually. I actually pulled out my shorty. I have a true mid-handle that I made, and it's real nice in this murky stuff because you can kind of hip fire it. There was a nice mangrove. I did quite a few hip fire shots this episode, even with the bigger gun, and I'll kind of explain why I do that once I get to it later. But after this, it was so murky, we just decided to head in, and Jeromy had something cool he wanted to show me. So apparently Jeromy has a spot that is a big giant hole in the earth, and we're gonna go look at it. I've never heard of this. I've never even been up here to dive, so this is kind of interesting to me. I'm very curious to see what it actually looks like. Apparently it's just a big giant hole. What's the bottom around it? 6 feet, 7 feet?
Okay, right now it'll be 6, but normally it's like 4.
Normally it's like 4 feet around it, and he said the hole goes down to like 160 feet or something, so I'm curious to see. I'm gonna take you along with me. All right, into the giant hole we go. There's bait everywhere. This is gonna be a sketchy hole because it's murky. So So from what I gather, this is an old spring of some sort. It may be dormant now, I'm not sure. But I believe the bottom was 165 feet or 70 feet, he said. And it was really murky, which made this very, very creepy. Just bait all over the place. It was unbelievable how much life it actually held. On a clear day, I'd love to dive real down deep as I could in this, but it was pretty unsettling, I'm not gonna lie.
I'm not gonna lie, it's terrifying. There's mangroves everywhere. There's more bait than you know what to do with. There's pilchies crawling in my snorkel.
So I finally mustered up some courage and started to crawl over the edge of this thing. Just slowly, little by little. There's ledges all around it, and if you kind of pay attention to this, you'll see the head of a real nice gag, and he kind of dusted me there and flipped around. I actually gave him about 5 minutes for that dust to settle before I went back down. A lot of times you'll do that when you first spook them. And I waited a little while, and I dove 2 or 3 times, and I was trying to get a better shot on this fish, but there's really nothing there. And if you look, you can see there's 2 of them. So there's one completely broadside, and there's one that's laying on flat on his side. It's kind of murky, so it may be hard to tell. But I had considered trying to take a double shot here, because you can have 2 gags, but the way that it was angled, if I shot the smaller one where I wanted, it would ruin a lot of the fillet on the bigger fish. So I sat there and thought about it for a while, then I decided not to be greedy. And I've done this before, and I'm trying to just put a shot right in the thick of the meat. And you'll notice I don't pull my gun out because he's up against a rock, so I know I should have done that with one band, by the way. But because it's up against a rock, I know there's a good chance that flopper didn't go all the way through. So you can see me kind of pushing the shaft in there. I want it to stay so that fish will flop out past the flopper.
I just took the big one. The way they're sitting, if I'd have went for both, I would have went right down the fillet of the big one. I just left it in. I left it in there.
So I kind of let him flop there for a sec. Again, I wanted to make sure that he came past that flopper. And he tried to come out the other side. And I've talked about this before. Once you got a fish kind of going through a swim through or coming out the other end of a cave, there's only a couple options you have. It's either do your darndest to pull it back through the other way, or you can pull him through one way, try and brain him so he doesn't draw unwanted attention, and then disconnect your line and pull him all the way through, which is what I ended up doing. We'll see here. I went down with one thing in mind, and then I changed my mind. I turned back around and unclipped it. It's another reason I like having that connect there, whether it's a snap swivel or a pigtail. I prefer the pigtails, but either of them do the same thing. So now I can pull that fish and the shaft out the opposite way.
I couldn't see his head. Not bad for 4 feet of water.
No, not at all.
So that's not a shot I often take shooting a fish that far back in the tail, but a lot of times they'll shove their head in a hole and they'll have the back of their body sticking out, and you know, aside from ruining a big chunk of the fillet, I try to shoot it as far back in the tail as I can. But this was a few minutes later. I'd finally mustered up a little courage to dive down in this thing, and you can just see it is pitch black. So after that edge is about 25-30 feet, and apparently this thing is shaped like a bottle. So what that means is like under that edge goes way out, so you can't see any walls. It was very, very creepy. And right at this depth, the water got extremely cold, and you could feel yourself start to sink. So I'm assuming that means that the water turned fresh. So this is either an old spring, may still be an active spring. But it was pretty terrifying. I'm just kind of swimming around searching the ledges. You can see I'm looking up, and you can't even barely see the surface. You can just see light. But these caves were unbelievable. Like really, really cool. I'm surprised there wasn't more fish there. It's a little creepy, but it was I'm glad I did it. It was really cool to see.
Woo!
It's over. Man, it gets super dark up in there, and I don't have a flashlight.
It's
so.
not. I've never felt that feeling. I've swam into a lot of scary wrecks and dove stuff I shouldn't have. That's not proper.
Not okay?
Nice gag to end the day. Not too bad.
Wind picked up a little bit. I don't think, may not be enough in this one. It was a little slower today than to make one episode, so probably we'll combine it with tomorrow. So I'll see you guys in the morning. We'll be out here diving again. Hopefully the wind lays down just a smidge, clear the water up, but I'll see you tomorrow. So we decided to throw the net on those pilchies. Too good a bait. We're gonna use it tomorrow to try and find some groupers. We'll see you then. Day 2. Let's go. Running a little farther today. I think we're gonna try some deeper stuff, so we got a little bit of a ride. We'll see you when we get there.
When you get up here? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's gonna be spooky.
Huh?
It's gonna be spooky.
Is it?
Yeah.
So we actually ran a little farther the second day. Wanted to try and find some cleaner water. Still was a little spooky. This was some kind of wreck Jeromy has. I forgot to turn my camera on my drop, but I turned it on once I got to the bottom. The amount of bait on this wreck was just unbelievable. You can see typically on your first drop is when you're going to see your bigger groupers kind of hanging out. And that one just gave me the perfect kind of side stone shot there. Love that when a first drop comes together. But pretty much every spot we hit, something I noticed over there is, maybe it's the time of year, there's an incredible amount of bait, just unbelievable on every spot, which obviously if there's bait there and a food source there, there's going to be fish there. So it was a little bit of better viz than we had the day before, but it definitely was still murky. Personally, I don't mind diving the Murk. I grew up diving Port Canaveral, which, if you're familiar, has very dirty water, and I don't know, it's kind of exciting. You never know what you're going to see. I believe the bottom was somewhere around 60, Jeromy said. I can't remember. But on the outside of the wreck here, because you couldn't spot it, you'd miss it from time to time, and just mangroves all over the place, bait all over the place. And when it gets murky like this, the camera actually makes it look cleaner than it really is, but I start hip firing, and you can see my gun's not all the way extended. Pretty much, I'm kind of holding it like, well, like Scarface held the machine gun he was shooting. It's a bad reference, but it's the only thing I can think of. I call it hip firing. It's what I do when the visibility's bad. And if you get good enough at it, it becomes effective if you don't have a shorter gun to use. In my last episode on the West Coast, I was with GR, and he had some 90s. But unfortunately, I didn't have a gun kind of in between. I have a gun that's a whole gun, but the range wasn't enough on this. So I'm kind of searching underneath the wreck, see if I can find any of those groupers. And I talk about leading with my gun. If I would have been a little better there, you can see a nice grouper spooked, and I only had one band loaded, and he was just out of range. Kind of ate my own lesson there. Need to have that gun facing where the flashlight is. Look at all that bait. Unbelievable. So we ended up moving to another spot. We left kind of late, so I think we only hit 2 spots this day, and it was kind of a long run. I believe this one was more of just kind of rock pile, ledgy type of deal. This is actually my very first drop. Good first impressions. There's kind of mangroves all over the place, which is pretty much the standard there. If I didn't see mangroves, I knew it was a bad spot, but we didn't hit anything that didn't hold mangroves, so tried to pick the bigger one. Again, kind of a hip fire there. I got lucky. I had quite a few stone shots with that hip fire. It's a tricky shot, but like I said, it's effective if it's a little murkier and you only have your bigger gun. So as you saw, we took we threw a net on some of those pilchards the day before, and there was so much life. I said, I'm taking the bag to the bottom, and I'm gonna bust it open. I know there's I know there'll be stuff that comes out to get it. There was just the first couple drops I did. There was so much life. I was just trying to be picky and find a bigger grouper.
About to be a party down there.
So I handed that bag off, and literally I did my breathe up about 2-3 minutes. This is my first drop after I popped that bag. When it comes to chumming, a lot of people ask how often I chum. Kind of depends. And something I tell them, chumming doesn't make fish. Fish have to be in the area for chum to work. So if you're on a crappy spot and you're chumming, nothing's going to happen. But if you're in an area that seems fishy, seems like there's some fish that you're not seeing that should be there, chum may help just bring them out. And this is just unreal. You can see the amount of gag groupers here. They look like cows grazing in a field. They're just everywhere. And I was trying to be a little selective and try and pop a bigger one. This was an incredible spot Jeromy had. This, I would love to go back and dive this. He said sometimes later in the year it gets really, really clear, which I can only imagine. This was too cool. This is that same spot. I kind of moved off a little because we had dropped so many times in that same area. I just went to the other side of the boat. Some really, really nice mangroves. I just couldn't help myself. I can imagine that if it was clear here and you could even remotely spot fish as they spooked and see where they rocked up, you could have a field day on this number. It was absolutely, absolutely wonderful. I think it was probably my favorite spot that I dove. Again, I throw my gun away from me. I haven't talked about that in a while. I throw it away from me just to avoid any line coming to me and kind of use the line, slide it through my hand to get that fish to me as quick as I can.
I am pooped. There's some moose mangroves down there still, but I don't know. I think we got enough, honestly. I saw quite a few gags that are like 25 inches. Like, if I really wanted to just shoot gags, I could have.
I did. Mine's 25 inches.
Is it?
Yeah.
We have got a cooler full of fish. We're heading back. Got a long ride, wind's picked up. It's time for a cold beer. We'll see you at the dock. Not a bad day. Well, 2 days rather. I had a freaking blast. Second time diving the Gulf. Big thanks to Jeromy, Spearing Magazine, Becky in the background, you can't see her, for having me. And Zach, what'd you do?
Help.
I did whatever I could.
Literally had an amazing time. It was one of my first times diving here over the West Coast. As you can see, there's no shortage of fish to be had. And realistically, what were we diving the majority of the time? 8 foot of viz-ish?
8 would be nice. 8 would have been nice.
It was bad viz. And as you can see, lots of fish to be had. Again, big thanks to Jeromy and Becky for having me. Spearing Magazine, if you have never heard of it, go check it out. I'm going to put some links in the description. Not going to cook tonight. We are going out to eat. It's kind of late. As always, thanks so much for your time. I will see you guys in the next one. Later.